Wink goes by RamblinGibberish, an audiobook, written by RamblinGibberish, pen name, edited by Girish Subedi, printed at Bridi Press. Check out the details for the link of their Facebook page and information.
Chapter 1 Introduction. It was a fine day in the middle of May. Middle of the way, as to say something, it was all okay. We have something to talk about, Aiden said. Alice replied, oh, do we should write. Actually, let's do one thing. Let's not talk from now on. Then, the two departed from their office. They worked in the same place for some time. Afterwards, Aiden got another job which he was applying for. So, he resigned from this one a month later. In the meantime, Alice took a vacation and went to a faraway town with a friend, Skarin. Skarin's boyfriend Jason was a crew member of a ship there, so they easily get access to travel in one. They roamed a while and met other people in the ship too. Then, Skarin said she'd stay with Jason for some more days and would not be able to go back as he had got holidays for a few more days. Alice was a bit uncomfortable at one point as Jason and Skarin were together. Well, they had started dating since college days. So, she had thought of going back too, but still, she wanted to refresh herself. So, she got some food and brought some clothes and decided to go to an island. She had saved some money, so she went to the airport and got all the information and had a private jet for 2 days. As an officer there said the weather was not suitable in the island that she wanted to visit that day, she could only be able to fly on the next. So, she booked a room for a day. Then, she kept all of her luggage and went out for a short walk. She grabbed up some food, roamed about a while and went to the hotel room to take a nap as she had woken up earlier that day. Later, she freshened up after waking up while she suddenly remembered that she'd probably need a tent or so. So, she asked the local people about where she would be able to get one. There were no such shops nearby and she then realized that she had to go for an hour or two drive. She hadn't had her lunch. Now, she was quite in a dilemma on whether she should go or have some food. She thought she'd be there within 2 hours and didn't even felt like eating up. Hence she went out as a local along with the manager of the hotel. He had told her that she'd get good tents over there and that there were no cafes or restaurants or hotels nearby, since it was next to a forest. It was an industrial area. So, she just grabbed some chips and a cold drink and decided to leave. The hotel manager was also visiting near the tent industry, where the other supplies for the hotel were. Hence she went with him in his car. They also took a local who knew well the quality and all of the tent stuffs. He had been an expedition guide until some years back. While the manager went to get his essentials, Alice accompanied the guide, who was quite an elder to her, to get the tent. As they were about to return back, the manager forgot some other stuffs that he had wanted to take. So, they waited nearby for him. Alice just roamed about the place in boredom as the manager had taken a bit longer time than expected. As she had already eaten up the chips and the cold drink, she didn't have anything else to satisfy the bits of hunger left in her. Finally, the manager arrived. Halfway while returning to the hotel, the car's engine suddenly stopped. After getting out of it, Alice kicked up its tire a bit, softly though. There were no workshops nearby. The manager eventually called up one of his staff members to find out about any mechanic who could come to their place. He then texted the location. GPS was available. After a while, the staff called and said that the workshop was closed and another was a bit farther away. He also said that there was someone whom he knew, a jobless guy who knew a bit about repairing cars. The staff would send this person over there by lending him his own car and instructed this mechanic to reach at the location on time. Then, as he reached over there, the mechanic took a look and maintained the car a bit. He said that it would need more repairs, but for now, it could reach the hotel. So, they drove back. During this time, Alice just sat, looked out of the window and felt the fresh air outside. She then looked at her phone and the tent simultaneously. The manager turned up the stereo and by then they reached the hotel. Alice had been a little sleepy later on, when the music was off. After reaching the hotel, the manager did some formalities of paying up the mechanic as well as the local, and everyone took their leave of each other. Alice went back to her room. She was really tired and didn't want to go anywhere else for food also. She searched her bag if there was something edible. Luckily she found out a tiny packet of saltine crackers. So, she ate that and then went for a good hot shower and took a nap. When she woke up, it was a little dark. Anyway, she decided to go out. She wanted to eat up in the restaurants nearby the beach during the dusk itself or in the afternoon with the view of the sea. Eventually, she went there at night for dinner. She just wanted to try out lobsters over there. So, she went out and had it. It was a bit crowded though, maybe a little, but she had found a place to sit where there weren't much people. She enjoyed being there actually, and when the food came she felt like looking outside. She could imagine the breeze and the sound of the wind but felt like being stuck with people inside the restaurant. So, she had her fill and came out. She then took a little walk in the dark with just the electric lights on the streets. When she reached the hotel and her room, she was like, why is the flight at morning itself? She just felt like, nah, I should be staying a bit, but then also somehow wanted to return back. Eventually, she felt, I will set up the alarm for 8 a.m. Okay, from 7:30 onwards. Maybe no, just 8 o'clock or 7:45. Whatever. She then went downstairs to the lobby, as the room that she was on the first floor, and told the hotel staffs to make her breakfast ready by 8 a.m. and call her up once at around 7:45. But after returning to her room, she was like, I've got to wake up at around 7 o'clock or so. No. She felt again inside, as if an utter of a cry. And again she was like, I've to reach there by 10 and have to keep a margin of time of an hour long. Not exactly an hour but still just in case. So, that means I have to get out by 9 o'clock. So, I can have breakfast at 8:30. But what if the breakfast took time, while eating up or to get it all done? Okay, I'll call up and tell maybe I'll be a little late but no. Why should I? No, I'll be okay. Puzzled, she decided to call up the room service. Again, thoughts swirled into her mind, yeah, and I can get up at 7:45 when they call up. But I've to keep the alarm at 7:50 and 8 o'clock, but what if I woke up once? But still, why risk? Then, after all these thoughts, she packed her luggage. She left some space on it for the clothes that she was wearing and meanwhile took out the ones for the next day, as she was quite sure she'd be late otherwise. Next day, Alice reached the airport and took off for the island with a pilot as she did not have any knowledge of handling it up. Then, as they reached over there, they decided to make their tents a little further from each other. Fred. The pilot said that he would go a little far for some time and if she needed to say anything or the plane for some purpose, then to call him up by hand gestures or if not seen, then to throw a stone or something. But then he had said that he'd be back after a while itself. So, she agreed and felt okay with it. Moreover, she didn't need anything as they had just had their food and it was also kind of an awkward situation at the very beginning. Hence, both of them decided that they should be alone for some time. It was actually a good idea too. Alice roamed, walked and enjoyed the nature, environment and the vegetation of that place. Admired looking at the green and white-colored plants, wild onion, dandelion, flowered eucalyptus and the surroundings along with the water surface. She then observed the tools used for making the tent stand straight after some time, though they had already made up their tent in the afternoon itself. She had actually felt good to have lunch with Fred in a way. Then, they had talks about general things about themselves, before he left. Suddenly, without any specific reason, she was getting a little sad and wanted to be with someone or with some people. After a while, she came back to the place where they had made up their tent. Fred had already come there. She acted normal, smiled and asked Fred how it was like being at the part of the island where he had gone for some time moments before. He said that he had been there earlier too once and that it was just fine. And then she asked, so you came alone? After a little pause, he replied by saying that he had come with his wife some years back. And she asked, so you are married, huh? All Fred could say was, and nodded his head. Alice didn't say anything. But then Fred spoke, but like 2 years back in an accident, I kinda lost. There were my wife and daughter and me and I was safe but. As he reflects back, no, it's okay, it's just, okay, by the way, what about you? Any story or something? He said, now smiling and in a happier gesture. Yeah, just broke up a month and a half back. But we didn't felt that thing the thing. So you like sandwiches, huh? Ah, yeah, but we already had that in lunch. What is over there? Alice went towards the aircraft as if to search for something. Fred followed. Here. He took out some packed food. Let's get out and have it. Then they decided to stay in over there for some time before going to the tent after having food. They stayed in their seats and played games in their mobile phones. Fred was almost in the middle of completing the last level of his favorite game. Mind if I? Asked Alice. Yeah, sure. Here. Any in yours? Yeah, but there's just one. But I kinda take pictures though. You could if you'd like to. You like taking pictures, photography and all? Yeah, a little passion. You know what, I don't really like to be emo or something, as you know. So take pictures of me, poses in a very different way. Okay, but I don't take that good and I don't even have the camera. In fact, I actually didn't know that I would be taking this vacation to be here. After their conversation and the food, they both slept for a while, in their own tents. The day passed by. The next day began for them a little late in the morning itself. Of course, a little late after having a little bit of food remaining that they had left the previous day. They exchanged their phone numbers and agreed to be in contact. As the airplane landed back to the runway, they waved to each other and departed. Alice, along with her luggage, went to the same hotel that she had booked before and asked if she could get a room for a few hours for the luggage. They agreed. She had to book a vehicle too. But she found out that the first bus would only leave the next morning. So, she went back to the hotel and stayed there for a day. Before going to get the information at the vehicle service office as a short walk in the evening, she had first reached over there, freshened up, ate, unpacked the entire luggage and rearranged it nicely, taking other clothes. Then, on next morning, she left. After rejoining her office, she didn't feel like working there as Skarin hadn't yet been there, and moreover, she didn't really like to work there anymore. So, she left that job. She then applied for another one, and luckily only after 2 days she was called for an interview, and within a week's time she got the job. At first, the place was new to her, but she eventually got familiar with it. They don't even look of my type. Why did I just quit that job? The thought came to her time and again. Aiden's office also seemed to be in partnership with that office she worked in. She came to know of this a week after working there. And she was like, oh, okay. Quote. But then she got along somehow. Well, not exactly, but listened to others' conversations. She talked occasionally about things a little bit to one of the other colleagues, Tosca, who joined there a week after her. But then she was in contact with Skarin and another school friend who had her house near her workplace. Though they didn't talk much, they got along well with each other. On a usual office day, one of the colleagues, named Bertha, who was a little older than Alice, probably in her 30s, began telling stories of the previous day as usual. She was a bit of a talkative person. Since the past 2 days, Alice had bought her tiffin to the office as she had some trouble in her throat. So, she didn't go out to have lunch and stayed there at the office. She did have a cup of coffee in the office break room though. But while having lunch, Bertha started narrating a story to everyone present there.